Welcome to the podcast. We have a guest today. Laurie-Ann is here with us. Laurie-Ann, will you give us a quick little intro of who you are and
Oh,
what you do?
sure.
Thanks.
Sure. I'm a reformed painfully shy girl who accidentally said yes to a speaking opportunity. And it literally changed my life. I said yes to this and it put me on a different path. And being on that path led me down the road of professional speaking, speaking on leadership and corporate engagement. And then just like another breadcrumb got left for me again. And it was a text message that said, Laurie-Ann, do you write speeches for people?
Mm,
And I was at a point where I was getting really burnt out hopping on and off airplanes for private events. And I was like, I don't do that. But
that
I'll
is so
show you
cool.
how I do. Like, I don't write people's speeches, but I'll show you how to write a speech.
Uh-huh.
I did. I helped her get booked. She knocked it out of the park. It literally changed her business. 60% of the room converted onto her email list, and 30% became clients of hers. And I was like, I wonder if other people want to know what I know.
I might be onto something.
Yes. And that's what brought me into the online world and teaching people about speaking and stages and just sharing your voice, your story, your solutions.
Mhm. Okay.
That's
I feel like the
that's
universe doesn't leave you breadcrumbs, it leaves you loaves.
I like that.
So, you're here today because we want to have a good conversation. And what I know, I'm in the midst of pod transition. And what I really want to do on these podcasts is have conversations that we would have that would help us, that we would be interested in having, whether people were listening or not. And so I asked you, like, well, what should we talk about today? And you're like, well, let me tell you what's happening in my world. And I was like, wait, we got to record. So can we go back to that moment and you can
To
start?
that moment. So I am suddenly attracting corporate. And when I ask these people, like, where did you get my name? And they'll tell me such and such referred you. I don't even know who that person is.
That's the
So
best.
yeah, this is very interesting. I'm like, all right, so one, SEO is working, me
Mhm.
speaking, people remembering me and referring me. And what I'm really liking about this corporate idea is that it actually incorporates my past leadership development, all
Mm-hmm.
the work that I did with like Johnson and Johnson, American Towers, creating new leaders. I'm like, and this one gentleman that I had a sales call with, I said, "Do you have time to strategically network?" And he was like, "No." I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "This could be your strategic networking." Being
Speaking.
so good, yes, learning presentation skills. And he has to give weekly speeches, whether it's just to his team, to a department, to board members, to upper
Mm-hmm.
leadership. Like this could be your strategic leadership. Because if you are so good, what's going
Mm-hmm.
to happen? People are going to come and talk to you.
Yeah.
Your
People want to eat out of your
potential,
hand.
yeah, potential future bosses who you want to be, they're going to want you on their team. So it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be like, they're going to have that conversation with you. So this is really opening up another door for me where it's like I'm teaching presentation skills just to a different type of audience.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as you put it, it was a loaf that was left for me.
More loaves of bread for you.
Yes. And I love it. And I think what it reminds me is that I'm on target. This
Yeah.
is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like that's what people need to like really think about, like especially as we transition from like year to year, month to month, quarter to quarter. It's, is what I'm doing, does it still feel good?
Mm-hmm. Great question.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing feeling good?
Yeah. Because what matters about that?
Like, besides everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. I One, you enjoy your business, but one, you become more creative. And like people can tell when this is what you're meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny, like we've all probably heard that question, like if money wasn't a factor, like what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I'd be doing.
You're doing it. I'm doing it too. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would wear my PJs and get a cup of coffee and go into the living room and people would line up for life coaching.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, any particular type of life coaching? Like, how would that work? Because I can just see like people like picking a number and like number 72, come sit in the
Yeah.
chair. They get to ask
Honestly,
you a question.
I don't know that it matters because I mean, I just don't think it matters. I've coached people on everything already, right? And while I think there are some areas of maybe expertise where the consulting side can come in and help out a little bit, that's fine.
Mhm.
But for true coaching, I don't think it matters.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about really good questions.
Hmm. Yeah. One question can change your life.
That's right.
Yeah.
How did you get into this?
I called it the affliction.
The
So
affliction.
yeah, was it when I graduated from college? I'd been out of college for a little while and I took a trip to Spain with these three dudes who I had met that winter living, and they weren't from my hometown, but they were all living there. And they were like, "Oh, we're going to Spain in January," and I was like, "Well, can I come?" And they were like, I guess so." And so I went on this trip with them. But as we're flying out of the country, it like this thing like settled into me, like what am I doing with my life? What is this thing? And I remember just like seeing people's faces in my mind, like, I don't want their life. I don't want their life. And like, what is this? And it's like kind of like that. But like, I didn't have it. I didn't have a model for who I was in the world.
Hmm.
And so that whole trip, this is pre Google, I spent a lot of time on Yahoo on the search engines figuring out like, what is this thing called who I am? And it was a life coach.
Wow.
Dial up internet. I figured it all out,
I remember those days.
right? How
Dial
long
up.
it took,
Yes.
where I had to go
And
to a computer shop cafe and pay for 30 minutes to sit on dial up internet and figure out what a life coach was called.
don't you remember like I remember like my first email address was with Juno and
Oh,
I
yeah.
had to call or email or I don't know how like I ordered this disk that showed up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like you were like loading software
Internet
onto
disc.
your onto your computer so you could get access to the internet. Those were the days,
Yeah.
folks.
And people used to make art out of the AOL discs because you'd get one in the mail like at least once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you didn't know what to do with it
Yeah.
once you
Exactly.
downloaded the software.
But it was shiny and pretty.
That's right, it was. So
Yeah.
like life has just so I mean like so much has changed.
So much has
And
changed.
you know, as I'm listening to your story about how you ended up in Spain, I'm thinking of I remember it was 10 years after 10 years after I graduated from college and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I here? And then it dawned on me, oh, that's right. You didn't decide on where you wanted to be. So you're right where you are.
Mm-hmm.
You
Good
didn't plan
awareness.
on it. So here you are. Here you
Yeah.
are, girl. And I think that a lot of times in life, like we are just kind of like walking on this treadmill that goes to nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how do you use speaking to help disrupt the treadmill? Because I'm imagining that's one of the points of what you do.
Is getting out there and sharing your story. A lot of times, like I hear a lot of people like, I don't know what my story is. I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah.
So just start talking. I mean, and this is where like IG stories comes in handy because it's 60 seconds. You have
Mm-hmm.
60 seconds to do a rep, which is you're just sharing a tip, sharing something from your life. I mean, if you get into that habit of here's what I learned today, or here's what I learned yesterday, and I'm sharing it with my audience, you're going to not only mine what you really enjoy talking about and even uncovering some of your own stories. Because finding your stories in your life, that's a habit, it's a skill. But also by sharing, you're going to realize and find out like what resonates with your audience. So it is about like just getting out there and doing the reps. And once you start thinking about stories, they'll start coming to you. So here's an exercise that I share with my clients. Like I'll say a bank. You need to think of stories where you've been in a bank, you've had to deal with the bank, or what does the bank symbolize? And you start getting into the habit of just doing that.
Hmm.
Every time you're driving down the street and you see like a different type of store or you see a park, you start thinking about like where in my life was I in a park? What's a story that I can abstract from that I probably forgot about like from years ago. Even as I'm saying park, I'm thinking of
Hmm.
some stories like from my 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the big thing about the stories is also to get into the skill of take that story and how do you correlate that to what you do so that you're drawing a line for your audience about the lesson,
Hmm.
sharing with people like you're not just telling a story for the sake of telling a good story. What is it you want the audience to take away? Don't
Yeah.
ever assume that they'll know what the lesson is. Tell them the lesson.
Right. And I think like the pace of storytelling, I know that people get nervous about wasting time. Like I don't want to waste time not just delivering exactly the nugget right away, but having sat in a lot of audiences, I notice that I lose time when the stories are being told. And I
Yeah.
was watching that recently, like how I was like completely not even in my own body. I was somewhere else in this story. And then I
Mhm.
would snap back in for like the when the nugget came out or when the like teachy part came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can kind of help people time travel.
Yes. I was on another podcast and she asked, I don't remember exactly what the question was. However, I ended up sharing a story about I had to go to New Jersey. It was a logistics company that was hiring me for their big global leadership conference and I was going to keynote for them. So I'm going to their US corporate headquarters. And in the cab is me and the guy who the referral came from. And he turns to me and says, "We're not going to a sexy office. We're going to a trucking office. Like there are literally 18 wheelers all over the place. We just happen to have a conference room there. That's where we're meeting." And I could have sat there and said, "Oh, that's okay."
Hmm.
Instead, I told him a story. I said, my husband's in the waste and recycling business. And we had our honeymoon in Hawaii. So, of course, while we were there, my husband
No
was
way.
dying to go to the transfer station.
How does trash work here? It's a good question.
That's what he needed to know. He just
Uh-huh.
had to know. And that's the story that I told. Like, I have been in
Yeah.
unglamorous places. As long as this is not a transfer station, we're going to be okay.
It doesn't smell like a transfer station. Perfect.
He just laughed and it put him at ease.
Hmm.
But I also used that story another time when I actually spoke to a recycling company that was full of a bunch of men, folded arms around the table. Like, who does this girl, like, what does she
Hmm.
know about our industry?
Right.
And I told that story. That was the first thing I told them.
Hmm.
And they were like, she gets us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
that's the power of story.
yeah, it shortens everything.
It does. It lets, in the speaking world, we say like your audience is literally seeing themselves in the story.
Hmm. Totally.
So it it just like you said, it shortens. It shortens things. You don't have to explain things. You can let the other person just experience it through your story.
So how is it that you're patient enough to let people do that?
Because it's such a process. But it's a beautiful process as they're getting there.
Hmm.
Like this is the stone that they're on. Just because I happen to be like on the other side of the like stream, like that's just where they are. And they're doing a beautiful job with what they have.
Hmm.
And then it's like they'll take another step. They'll get courageous enough to like, let me try this story. Or
Yeah.
this one just came to mind. Let me see if this resonates with my audience. You just keep trying new things.
And you get the reps in, I heard you say earlier.
Yes, you gotta get the reps in.
Yeah. What's your ultimate like when you get to work with a new client, what's your ultimate hope for them?
That they will feel so comfortable in front of an audience being themselves because nobody can duplicate you.
Hmm.
And you speaking is something that AI can't do. Sure, there's like these lots of like you can have an AI clone video like do your trainings for you. That's great.
Hmm.
in a way. I don't know. I think as human beings, we should trust our intuition and we know what's real. We can sense what's not real. But when you're
Mhm.
speaking in front of an audience or you're, like on a live stream, on this video, like people can feel you and I.
Embodiment.
Yes.
Truly, embodiment is a thing. Here we are.
Yes. And getting comfortable with that, like my very first Facebook Live. Now, I had years of experience speaking on stages. I'm going to do a Facebook Live, hit record. I am this flat personality, less person. Like,
Mhm.
it was horrible,
Yeah. Oh,
but I'd
yeah.
never done one before. Never done one. It's like, why would my live stream muscle be strengthened if I
Hmm.
hadn't been training for it, if I hadn't done any reps? And I left that up. And I know that Facebook has like taken stuff like that down, but I left it up for years. And I told people, go watch it. Go watch
Yeah.
that, then watch another one and just watch them and see how I've progressed. And
Hmm.
that's what will happen to you.
Hmm.
But you just have to put the reps in.
Yeah. I remember when Facebook Live came out, or I started using it, which was fairly
Hmm.
soon after it came out. I decided
You're
to
an
do,
early adopter.
not usually, kind of a grandpa on the inside, but I did 23 days of, I called it Christmas Moss, and I don't remember why, but I did live video every day for 23 days.
What'd you learn?
Well, I had the weirdest experience. I was at home and I was in the hardware store and I had this person walk up. She was taller than me and I'm 5'9", so I'm not short, taller than me. And she's looking me in the face and she's like, I watch all of your videos. And I had no idea who she was on an island of 3,000 people. And my brain was just like, what is happening right now? So for me, it was like, video really works. And it just made it so comfortable. And I'll go live on video anywhere at any time. I don't care about it anymore. So I think it gave me just total accessibility to do it.
Yeah, and think of how obviously you touched her life.
Right.
That once she watched not just that first one, but the next one, the next one, the next one, and then she sees you. I mean, can you imagine? Put yourself in her shoes. She sees you and she's like, I think that's the woman I've been watching on Facebook
Yeah.
Live. And
I'm
so she
going to go
probably like
introduce
took us to,
myself.
she's like, I'm just going, yep, that's
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. So weird.
Exactly. That's a lot of courage that she just walked up to you
I
and
know.
said, hi, like basically, I'm a fan.
Yeah. It was amazing. I love it. I think it's interesting to watch how well speaking works. And for me to have watched so many people be on stage and get great results from it, and I still don't really prioritize it. What is happening? What do you think is up with that?
What's that? That's well, I'm going to turn that question around on you. What's up with that?
Yeah, I
Because
think
I've
I,
heard good things about you running groups.
yeah. So workshopping,
Hmm.
facilitation, I'll do it. I'm good at it. I don't have to think about it. But the moment moves from being a workshop or a facilitation into speaking, I'm like, I don't really do that.
Well, I believe that speaking needs to be redefined.
Okay, good.
So
What is
you
it?
facilitating groups or doing a workshop, that's a form of speaking. You
Hmm.
doing a live stream, that's a form of speaking. Your podcast, this is your stage, this is a form of speaking. You doing a sales call, that's another form of speaking.
Oh, and I love sales calls.
So let's now put you on a stage. And now, how does that feel?
It does feel a little more doable. I'm like, if it's like a sales call, I can do that. That's funny because I think sales calls are like such a delight. And that
And
would be
what
what it
makes,
was.
okay, so what makes them so delightful for you?
Connection,
Hmm.
I have a lot of reverence for that process because
Hmm.
there's a full blown adult standing in front of, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy. It's like, I'm just a person standing in front of you saying, there's this thing in my life that doesn't work so well. And I'm vulnerable enough to share that I want it to be different and that I might need help doing it.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
So now picture an audience with those same, I have a problem. That's why I said yes to being at this event, whether it's in person or virtual.
Hmm.
I'm interested. They've already said a micro yes. They're
Hmm.
sitting in your audience. And then you have that reverence and you want to connect with them. So you're not talking to everybody at once. You speak in a way that you're speaking to one person. So you don't say things like, who here has ever felt? It's, have you ever felt
Mm-hmm.
discouraged by your business, frustrated, burnt out? You know, like
Right.
whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that you're saying to them. But you speak to one person and everybody feels like you're speaking to just them.
Makes 100% of sense. Yeah, you just changed it for me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And then it's really about like having that structure, knowing what it is that you're going to say.
Mm-hmm. Just
Y-
like a sales call has a four-part structure. And I know no
Yes.
matter what, we're going to dance around in the first part and then the second part, and we're going to get to the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same thing. Like if you have that structure, and that's, like what I teach in in-demand signature speech, like there's a structure. It's literally built in blocks so that if a meeting planner ever comes up to you and says, the speaker before you just went 20 minutes over it, can you knock 15 minutes off your speech? Absolutely is the answer because
Mm-hmm.
your job is to make them look like a rock star and
Mm-hmm.
you know which block or blocks plural to take out. And you still have this beautiful cohesive speech.
Look at that. Okay. I love it. Okay. What do we talk about next?
I'm thinking of the story where I was selling my iPad. And so I met the guy, I sold it on like Facebook Marketplace, and I met him at the mall. And he's buying my iPad. And he had looked me up and he was like, I can't believe what you do.
Yeah.
He's just like, I could never do what you do, which is, like speaking on stages. And I said, well, what do you do? I'm in a band. Okay. I'm in a band. I sing. And I said, and in between songs, do you talk to the audience? Oh, yeah, that's so easy for me. Do you happen to say the same thing every single gig, every weekend? He goes, yeah, pretty much. I go,
Signature talk.
it's just a different speech. Yes.
Oh,
I
wow.
said, you're doing what I teach people to do.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't see it because he's like, I'm in a band.
Right. Right. Different
You didn't
door.
see that you're already speaking because you're kind of ignoring all these other forms of speaking
Mm-hmm.
and you weren't giving yourself credit for.
Yeah. Okay. So then if somebody wants to use speaking as their networking tool, like you were talking about at the beginning, like how are you doing that with corporate folks? What do you work on or like how does it go?
With corporate, it's one, they're giving presentations like every week, sometimes multiple times a week. So there is an aspect of this on how to prepare for those speeches. And like one of the things that I tell, whether they're corporate or whether they're coaches, consultants, if you and I were working together on this speech that you're going to give on a stage, I would say there's two questions that you need to answer first. Number one, what's the gift you want to give the audience? Like if you
Mm-hmm.
literally put your hands together, what is the gift? What is the thing you want the audience to walk away with? What do you want them to think differently, feel differently, do differently, believe differently?
Mm-hmm.
You have an answer to that. Then I'm going to turn it on you. What do you want to get out of speaking at this event? And the corporate people exactly the same. Like, what is it you want to get out of this particular meeting, this
Mm-hmm.
particular, address to the board, update? When you know what those two questions are, that's the goalpost.
Yeah. Then
Now
you know
we
what
know
to do.
where we're going.
Right. And you can feel when you're experiencing somebody's speech if they don't know that.
Yes, it's
Like,
all over the
what's the
place.
point here? Where are you taking this? Yeah.
Yes,
Or
it's
when
all over the
I
place.
am all over the place and I can tell I don't know what's happening. And then, what can you expect out of your audience when that's going on?
Exactly. Then you have this call to action and you wonder why didn't anybody like raise their hand? Why didn't anybody sign
Yeah.
up?
Which
Because
we've been talking a lot in with my group of coaching clients who are coaches, and a lot of them are like, "What is the point of my newsletter? Why do we have to do this?" Right?
Mhm.
And this is the answer to that. It's like you have to lead what the point of this thing is for them, and the point of it is for you, or it's never going to feel comfortable.
Yes,
We've been talking about it all week, and it was talking about speaking.
you are talking, it's just in a different form.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
written words.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I believe that speaking is just verbal copy.
Yes, 100%.
We are just crafting words together and
Mm-hmm.
then we just say them out loud to people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get
Okay.
really good at them. And a lot of times, like when I do a lot of podcast interviews, like I get the same questions. They might
Mm-hmm.
be structured and worded a little differently, but I've done this rep for this question
Yeah.
again and again and again. So I
Yeah.
do have concise answers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually what people are like, wow, you're so eloquent. It's not my first time answering this question.
So, what's the question I haven't asked you that happens on most podcasts?
Oh, I
Wait,
don't
wait,
know.
I take it back. What's the question that nobody ever asks you that I should ask you today?
Nobody ever asks me. That is a good question. I'm gonna say how, and more people probably should be asking me this, is about how to convert the audience.
Oh, yeah. Can we talk about that?
Yes, absolutely, because I'm such an open book when it comes to speaking. So I've crafted, like there's a certain methodologies to in-demand signature speech because it has to do with what the audience is experiencing. Yes, they all said a micro yes. You have to start your speech. So this is your opening. You have to start your speech in a way that gets the audience to lean in.
Mm-hmm.
But what naturally happens to the audience is that then they lean back and they fold their arms and they're thinking, but why should I listen to you?
Mm-hmm.
You have to answer that question then. That's what I
Mm,
call your authority section. So
gotcha.
your authority section is not some dull resume. We're not reading your LinkedIn bio. Like it needs to be conversational, something that gets people to like, oh, she does know her stuff.
So, for me, for you, this was the second you said you were a shy girl.
Second, I said I was a shy girl. In my speech, I'll also mention like I've got 25 years of experience. So now I'm
Yeah.
saying, I'm talking to the people who are in the audience who are like, I'm shy. Oh, she did that too.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that. I've got 25 years of experience. And then I'll also mention, and I've worked with some small companies like Johnson& and Johnson, American Towers. You probably
You
have
may
never
have
heard
heard
of
of.
them. Yeah. And I usually get a chuckle out of
Uh-huh.
that, but I
Yeah.
want people to think, okay, we're in good hands.
Yeah. So we can
She's
trust her.
done this
She's experienced.
before.
Yeah.
Yes. And then you go into you're teaching. You are teaching some information, but also my goal is that by the end of your speech, everybody that's in that audience is going to know other stuff about you, like, oh, Caryn's got a group program. Oh, she's got a book that's an Amazon bestseller. Oh, she does one-on-one. Oh, she has this DIY. It's like, so that now they're going to your website and like, oh,
You're
because you've
seeding.
told, yes, you're telling them all of these other ways that they can work with you or that
Mm-hmm.
you work with people. And the reason why I came up with this is because a lot of times meeting planners have been burned before. So this is why they say you can't pitch.
Right. Yeah.
I have an event that somebody hired me for. It's a live event. It's in April at a lovely resort. And she flat out said, you can't pitch from the stage, but you're going to be there all weekend. So people are going to look you up. And
Mm-hmm.
I just told her, I said, that's okay. I said, this is what I teach people. I
How
teach
to
people
not pitch.
how to not pitch in a way, but people feel it. They're just
Yeah.
like, I need to
Yeah.
work with you.
This reminds me of when I'm teaching people how to host a sales call and to lead a sales
Mm.
call, how you do the whole sales call and you're talking away and you're connecting. And then all of a sudden you go to make the offer and your voice starts to get really high and it's just going to be this much of an investment in hosting that for you. Right. And like how I think this, I've seen myself do this in a speaking situation where at the end I cram this terrible pitch on the end. It's
Yes.
awful. It'd be cool to never do that again.
Okay, so here's what I would say to that. And it's so what's your full name?
Caryn Gillen,
How tall are you?
5'9".
Where do you live?
Eugene, Oregon.
Okay, how much is your program?
Uh, I want to say which one.
Which one?
3,000.
I should have got you to think about like one. But that's all you're doing. You're stating it as a fact. It's like,
Oh
here's
my
what my
God.
name is, here's how tall I am, here's where I live, here's how much the program is.
This is exactly what I tell people to do. You need to be like, what's on? I'm going to get milk. I'm going to get bread. I'm going to get eggs. The cost of the program is $3,000. Do you want jam with that? Like, So we're
Yes.
doing the same thing. That's funny.
Yes.
Hmm.
It's the exact same thing. It's about your voice and not your voice changing because you feel awkward talking about the price because what's really going on is you're thinking they're never going to buy. She's not
Right.
going to say yes.
Yeah.
They're going to walk away and they're going to ghost me.
Yeah.
Versus what if you came to that sales call thinking, of course they're going to buy.
The right people
You're
always do.
right. The bright people always do. Of course they're going to buy.
Hmm.
Your energy is so much different.
Yeah.
So I equate this to with speaking, it's called your pre-speaking routine.
Mm.
And there are certain things that I tell people to do, like find out what's yours. Mine happens to be music and movement.
Hmm.
Those two things work really well, and that's what I'll do before I get on a sales call. I have to get on a speaking event or even a podcast interview. Like
Move your
there's a
body to some
routine that
tunes.
I did beforehand.
So you listen to the same music, like you have your playlist?
I do.
Yeah, I love that.
I do. And I usually dance around in the foyer,
Yeah.
in the living room.
Every home
Yes.
should have a dance floor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Luckily, I do have hardwood floors.
Perfect. Yeah. I have cement, so they work great.
Even better. You could actually be rollerblading,
Oh, that sounds fun.
doesn't it? Once
Okay.
upon a time.
So I feel like we cracked the code, or
Have
you did.
I cracked the code for you.
You did.
Yes.
You
So we're
totally
gonna get
did.
you out speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. And then who comes to you? Who's ready? Who's the perfect client who shows up on a sales call with you and is like, this is exactly what I need?
One, it is corporate who is tired of being passed over for those promotions
Mm.
and doesn't have time to do that strategic networking and wants to, like, here's how I can basically take the express lane for that next promotion is to
Hmm.
start like really leading with their voice. And in my coaching, like the online space, it is a coach who is ready to, I'm just tired of being invisible.
Hmm.
I am like, why is nobody like liking my posts? Why can't I get in front of the right people? There are over 250,000 associations here in the US. 250,000. There's an association for everything. So there's a coach for everything.
Hmm.
So I'd say to coaches like, well, who do you work with? If you tell me like you work with real estate agents, guess what? There's 134 different associations for
For realtors.
realtors. And that doesn't include real estate investing or real estate
Hmm.
management. That's just real estate. 134. Then we start looking into like, okay, where are the chapters in each of the states?
Hmm.
One of my clients, he speaks for real estate. I'm like, you literally could speak at their main
Every day of the year.
yearly conference. Yeah, even just the yearly conference, like there's 12. I mean, like every how many years
Hmm.
would it take you? It would probably only take them like 3 or 4 years to go through all of them, and then let's start back over.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of like taking the niche you have and micro niche into someone else's niche. Like, do you want to be the career transition coach for dentists?
Yes.
Like, add that. And then all of a sudden you have, I mean, there is a lot of dental.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, there really is dental
Mhm.
and there's a lot of medical conferences. And I love to tell people like you have to pick a niche, you have to pick an industry. And they kick and scream and then I say you can't hike 5 different mountains at the same time.
I mean, I'm living proof. You really do need to pick something.
Yeah. Like climb to the top of one mountain and let's just make this dental. You get the top of this dental, and there's going to be like tech is going to see you and be like, would you come over here and do what you did for them?
Mhm.
That's how you get to work with other industries, is when you get so well known in one that other industries then see you.
That's how you get to talk to the garbage and transfer station people.
That's right.
All roads lead back to where does the trash go?
All roads lead to trash. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's everywhere. I mean, that's got to have a lot of conferences too.
It does. It really does. And
Hmm.
the gentleman who brought me out to speak to his leadership team, I had met at the scrap metal industry. And
See?
the reason I met him I met the guy who, for the scrap metal that I spoke for, I met the coordinator for there at the plastic show. All I was doing was hanging around with my husband.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I tell people like if you're going to a conference either with your spouse or you're
Hmm.
attending one anyways, you should capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah.
Find people who plan other conferences, other meetings. Get to know the meeting planners. Just because you're not speaking there this year doesn't
Hmm.
mean you won't be next year because it really is a relationship business.
100% all day, every time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I
think
love that.
everything
Great
is.
reminder. I think so too. Yeah. I don't even believe in cold audiences, honestly.
Yeah.
Does it
And
exist?
and isn't that a mindset?
Yeah, true.
And how do you walk through life differently thinking this is just another warm audience?
Right. Yeah. Everybody, I mean, we're just not friends yet. Come on.
Yeah, we are just not friends yet.
Yeah.
Which brings me to when you do have that speaking event and you're speaking on that stage,
Hmm.
get there early, start
Right.
talking to people. Hi, how are you? Because now
Hmm.
you're not speaking to a cold, unknown audience. You're
Hmm.
speaking to a bunch of people that you already met some of them.
Yep. That's a good tip too. Don't
And
go
then
hide away in the back room.
yeah, and then you incorporate some of the stories that they shared with you into your speech, and then they're flattered that
Hmm.
you added that.
Hmm. Ooh, so many good hot tips. Okay.
It just comes from years of speaking on stages, and these are the things that I did so that I would stand out. And so this is what I do with my clients so that they feel like when they give their very first presentation that they've had like got like 5 years of experience.
Hmm.
Like they always expect something to go wrong.
Yeah.
Always like and I would say like that is something that prepare yourself for. Something will go wrong. The microphone won't work. They can't hook up your slides. The lighting, the fire alarm goes off. I mean, you just never know. But if you expect it, and then
Right.
when it does happen, like you're not freaking out, like time's ticking. Oh,
Hmm.
that's okay. I know which block to take out in my in-demand signature speech.
Hmm. I love it. Thanks for sharing the behind the scenes and the front stage with us today.
Oh, you are welcome. I'm an open book when it comes to this information because I want more women to get out there speaking and
Hmm.
sharing their story and sharing their solutions and just getting known.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful way to for more people to experience you
Yeah.
before they hire you.
Right. So they can experience themselves.
Yeah.
Hmm. I love it. Good. Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Well,
And
thank you for inviting me.
I know you have some cool stuff that you like give away. So, what freebie or podcast or whatever do you want to share today that people can go find from you?
I would say go hang out on my website is the best place for you to find whatever it is that you desire,
Okay.
whether that is a freebie. I do have freebies, and I also have a podcast from my website, which is speakandstandout.com. You'll also find my podcast, which is Be in Demand. And I also have a limited series podcast called Public Speaking Monetization Tips. It's a total of 18 episodes that'll take you from beginning to end, and it is like an audio course on
Mhm.
how to start using speaking to grow your business.
Yes, I love that. Good. Okay. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Okay. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. It was wonderful to sit with you and just hang out with you, Karin.
Yeah. Thank you.